Hello, fellow travelers. This is Veronica from Human Design Journey, and we're going to look at the daily transit. The sun today moved to the 26th gate, the Taming Power of the Great, and is going to stay there for the next few days. We can see here. Until Wednesday. So it's about the maximization of the power of the memory applied to the nurturing of continuity. We have here the gate of the egoist, part of the, together with the 44th gate of the channel of surrender, design of a transmitter. So basically, this is the gate of the egoist, the gate of the trickster, which it's about the memory that can be manipulated. And it is important to remember that the heart center is not aware. Its mechanical function is just inborn. And basically, since every gate in the human design by nature is dualistic, from the mouth of the great trickster, the great liar, can also come the great truth. This is the gate of the ego's strength. And the 26th gate is the gate of the thymus gland, where our immune system is developed during our prenatal phase. So this is the only direct connection between the ego and the spleen. Right now we have it in the first gate, a bird in the hand, the ability to enjoy the dreams engendered by accomplishment in order to avoid the delusion of unlikely potential, the ego which transcends limitation through dreaming, and the other side, accomplishment as a license for foolhardy risk-taking, the refusal of the ego to be satisfied. And we have also the 45th gate, which is the gate of the gathering together, the gate of the gatherer. In first line, canvassing, the ability to promote and develop gathering together through the education of the uncommitted. The material direction lies in education, an overzealousness that turns canvassing into proselytization and tends to alienate rather than gather support. The drive for material that leads to aggressive education. So we have the first lines, and tomorrow it will go to the second line, the lessons of history. So we have the energy and depth of reflection to learn from the past in anticipation of the future, the power of the ego to mature through experience, and the other side, the urge to take action despite the evidence of history, the failure of the ego to respect experience. Then if we look at the 45th gate, in the first line, we already saw, and the second line is consensus. Gathering together is strengthened by acknowledged common interest, the inventiveness to establish techniques by which common ground can be assessed, a material direction through the expression of techniques for the benefit of others, an innate rebellion against conformity, the refusal to accept the material techniques of others. So we see that tomorrow it will be either we take lessons from history or disregard the past, and at the same time gathering together the inventiveness to establish techniques, and the other side, the innate rebellion against conformity. So a few interesting days here. Then we have the third line, in 2 days exclusion, In the 45th gate, the ability when excluded to take whatever measures are necessary to dissolve the antiquated form and to accept even humiliation to achieve inclusion, and the instinct to find a way to be included in a material process. Or the other side, an aggressive and often violent reaction to exclusion, the expression of frustration when not included in the material process. And on the other side, so we will see who's not included in the next few days and what the reaction is going to be. And the sun in the 26th gate, the third line, influence, the ability once prepared to gather support, the authority to focus communal effort, the power of the ego to gather support, the leadership. While gathering support, as the other side, will underestimate potential challenges. The egoist unable to recognize the potential challenges in others. With trial and error process. Then we're going to go to the fourth line, the censorship, the alteration of memory through elimination, the ability through censorship to save the collectivity from itself, the power of the ego manipulated through forgetting. And the other side, the use of censorship to maintain the status quo, selective memory in fear of unstrained consequences, the power of the ego maintained through selected memory. So we see here, we talk about memory all the time, the 26th gate. It's about remembering and eliminating, for instance, in the censorship, we have elimination of memory. So if you go to a new job, you don't want to remember the bad things from the old job. You don't want to carry this over to the new place. So you tend to forget the bad and to remember the good. Then the 45th gate, the earth, where the grounding is in the fourth line, is direction, the ability to focus the opportunity to gathering together for the service of higher principles, the expression of higher principles on the material plane, and the other side, the tendency to try to influence the direction of a group action for personal benefit, the lack of expression of higher principles on the material plane. Then on Monday, on Tuesday, we get into the fifth lines, and on Wednesday in the sixth lines. So let's see the fifth line, adaptability in the 26th gate, the understanding of mechanics and the application of energy to achieve maximum potential, the power of memory which maximizes the potential of the ego to attract others. And the other side, the resistance and dissatisfaction when basic changes to nature are necessary, the resistance of the egoist to adaptation, not wanting to change. And the 45th gate, fifth line, leadership, all gathering together must have a center and a focus, the intuitive intellect and gift for innovation that enhance the group effort and ensure continuity through respect of the center, the gift for expressing leadership on the material plane. And the other side, a sense of right action that assumes a respect that may not as yet have been earned, the drive for leadership that may not have yet earned the right, basically to be a leader. And the final sixth line, authority, the natural attainment of influence justified by the correctness of actions, the embodiment of reason and purpose that passes the test of time, the strong ego whose influence is justified by the correctness of its actions. And the other side, authority as a symbol and focus, but not necessarily as a true embodiment. The constitutional monarch stripped of real power, but still the symbol of the continuity of authority. The expression of the ego as a role, whose influence is a symbolic and lack of authority. And the 45th gate, sixth line, reconsideration, an outsider that can admit that its prior rejection was an error will generally be accepted into the gathering. The exaltation is an innate empathy with the outsider mentally, and it's eccentric and offer misunderstood logic, a material direction which serves the outsider. And the other side, where Uranus will innovate to find a place for an outsider. Jupiter will demand that it conforms a material direction that is focused on conditioning the outsider to conform. So you see here we have the theme of the material success on one side, gathering together, natural and generally beneficial attraction of like forces. Gathering together to either educate uncommitted or to strengthen by acknowledged common interest. The ability when excluded to take whenever measures and or the expression of frustration of that, the direction, the ability to focus, the opportunity of gathering together, the leadership, all gathering together must have a center and a focus. And in the end, the reconciliation, an outsider that can admit that its proper rejection was an error. So we have here the themes of, on one hand, of the memory, and on the other hand, the gathering together, the king and queen, priestess and priest. I have, says the 45th gate. I like to have, and I don't mind sharing, because the 45th gate, it's nothing without actually sharing with the tribe. It has all these resources, all this education, studying, in order to provide to the tribe. For the greater good, to share the resources. So, this is, on one hand, is going to be an energy which provokes being in control and basically manifesting the natural and generally beneficial attraction of life forces. And on the other hand, we're going to have the trickster and really trying to transmit for what is perceived as better quality, bigger value, innovation. So it will be a lot of bullshit in the air, a lot of sales going on, marketing, trying to sell your tribal truths, what is believed to be better for your own tribe, for your own benefit. And all of this garnished with the nodes of the moon, which just moved to the 44th gate, 6th line, coming to meet the gate of alertness in aloofness, a perfect renewal in which the establishment of a new form inures one to the condemnation of the rejected, the awareness of patterns which ensures one's instinctive well-being, or the opposite, the other side, intolerance and arrogance for lesser mortals, the awareness of patterns which can bolster the ego at the expense of the well-being of others. And the 24th gate, the north node, future and direction, environment, the return, the gate of rationalization. 6th line, the gift horse, the possibility of being deaf when opportunity knocks. On one side, the conscious participation in a process that prepares one for easy identification of opportunity, identification and focus with the rational thought process, and the other side, innate suspicion which leads inevitably to lost opportunities, often irrational suspicion that distorts the focus and can lead to missed opportunities. So these will be the focus, what people will be seeing in the perspective connected to rationalization and returning thoughts, trying to rationalize them, to transform them, and at the end to express them. But At the same time, we have the 44th, aloofness, or the gate of alertness as well. So the focus of and perspective is connected to the perfected renewal or intolerance and arrogance for lesser mortals. That can bolster the ego at the expense of the well-being of others. And at the same time, we have the moon. So right, these will be for the next 6 days. The moon will change very soon. But right now it's keeping Steel Mountain, the gate of stillness in the second line concern. So the driving force where our focus of thinking is, the pause that is initiated to benefit others, the pressure to restrain energy for the benefit of others, or a selfish and abrupt pause that may endanger others unnecessarily. The pressure to selfishly restrain energy at the expense of others. That will be the focus and pressurized by adrenaline energy. Then we have the joyous, the gate of vitality, first line, love of life. The very stimulation of the world is the basis of an aesthetic appreciation of its beauty and wonder. Or the other side, the moon has its phases, its moods that will limit the joy to an intermittent and cyclical experience. Then we have, so this is the communication and thinking, Mercury, what we are going to be saying and hearing around us. Enjoyment, people wanting to enjoy themselves. And the Venus, the values and relating is in the gate of treating, the gate of behavior of the self in the second line, the hermit. The successful sidestepping of behavior requirements through isolation. So we see a lot of isolation, actually. We have aloofness here. We have the gift horse, and then again the hermit. The angry exile, isolation to persevere independent behavior in the face of conditioning. So a little bit of aloofness and being natural, being with yourself as moral values. And at the same time, we have Mars in 35th gate, progress, the gate of change, in fifth line, altruism, the sacrifice of personal for communal progress. The principles of interaction and harmony communicate successfully for the benefit of the whole. Or the progressive communication, but always the sense that personal progress has been sacrificed. So looking for, because the Martian energy is very mature, very dynamic, very explosive. It matures with time. So progress can be very explosive, very unexpected, and there can be the feeling of personal expansion being lost, and the sacrifice for personal for communal progress, which can lead to crisis. We have the 36th gate, Neptune, the darkening of the light, the gate of Christ in first line, resistance, the energy and determination to persevere in the face of opposition, the emotional power to handle crisis. So in the air, there is a lot of deals with a lot of crisis. We have Uranus, the law, in the second line of innocence, the gate to the spirit of the self, the existentialist. Devotion and dedication to the now, the perfection of the intellect through concentration and focus on what is rather than what could be or has been. The innocence of the self and its protection can only be maintained in the now. And detriment, a dedication that can never be free of personal motivation and its attendant projections. A lack of innocence in the now that risks protection through projection. Being existential in the now, not knowing what direction to take. And so we have a lot of first and second lines. actually. So everybody will be concerned with themselves and doing their own stuff, not wanting to really engage. And it's the time of the year, actually, where the light outside is scarce in the northern hemisphere. So turning to your inner light is kind of the way. But let's look at Saturn, because it's where we're going to be limited. In the second line, the last resort, the determination to exhaust every possible peaceful avenue for change, and then when satisfied that no other course is possible, to plan in detail before a revolution is attempted. The potential to explore every possibility before rejecting. And the other side, the opposite, the overwhelming revolutionary urge that is impatient with the accommodation and negotiation. The tendency here is the coup d'etat that has little general support, impatience with accommodation. And what did we just see? In the past week, we saw actually indeed trial for coup d'etat, trying to make a coup d'etat, military coup d'etat actually in Germany, which was very surprising. So this is where we're being limited when we don't, when the innocence is not being followed, the spirit of the self. And so what would that mean is that the spirit of the self has not been actualized, and thus limitation is in the last resort, gate of principles, revolution, the potential to explore every possibility before rejection, or rejecting any impatience with accommodation. Then we have the second gate in the unusualness, Uranus, chaos and innovation, the receptive. Third line, patience, the teacher that never stops being a student. For the revolutionary, patience is a vice, higher knowing that cannot wait and demands expression. So on one hand, we have all these aloofness and being natural, wanting to be left alone. But then we have here the trial and error process of always having to learn those lessons, being the ultimate student. And of course, we have Pluto still in the 60th gate until year 2025. So the truth transformation technology will bring the new age via the gate of acceptance in first line, acceptance, the ability to maintain inner harmony when confronted by external limitations, harmonic energy that can deal with external limitations. And the other side, the drive for diversity that when limited can become restless and agitated, restless energy which when confronted with external limitations. As you can see, there's so many. Oh, actually, there is only one fifth line, 2 sixth lines, and then everything else is first and second lines, 1/3 line. So it's not going to be such a social construct of a week, although we have the 36, 35, the channel of transitoriness, which is quite social, wants to share its process, wants to share its experience, experiential way, and getting not only yourself, but everybody else who came with you, took the bait of your, that you put there out for the experience to be shared, and you get into a crisis. So we can expect a lot of crisis, progress, change, learning, because we have that design of a jack of all trades. So here, because of all the experiences we go through, we finally get to through that experience get get knowledge, get experience, get understanding, and being there, done that kind of thing. You don't have to do it again. because you've been there and you saw it and you know whether you like it or not. And hence there is no clarity, because we have right now an emotional manifester, actually. So people will be running around manifesting things, doing things, starting things, bringing them into reality. At the same time, trickstering, lying, exaggerating, selling. And it's those times of the year, right? Christmas, a lot of sales going on, which in these times can lead to crisis, not knowing what to be, where to, what's the direction, the right direction. Completely open sacral, so absolutely able to not know when enough is enough, to completely overdo in a hurry, not under pressure to think, inadequate about thinking, not knowing what to think, and rationalizing, over rationalizing through a natural and spontaneous process of transformation and renewal, the gift horse. So, and we have a split definition, which means that the power of the ego and this sales process, knowing what's good for the tribe, is absolutely separate from the emotional clarity of the experiential process. So we have here the urge to try to be over controlling, that's the bridge, and to be shocking, to be competitive, and but primarily we have biting through, so wanting to compensate by control, and getting into crisis to control the outcome process of innovation, sales, and betterment. But that's one side. The other side will be super spontaneously getting into critical moments, revolutionizing unnecessarily, and in a hurry, putting a big deal of ego in the whole process and in willpower, but not knowing when to stop and when enough is enough. So guys, in order for you not to get into unnecessary, unwanted deals, which are not of benefit to you, and get into critical crisis situations which don't bring you progress and change, but on the opposite, can actually put you in danger, and impulsively taking correct decisions which later you can regret, trying to control everything and be the one giving and distributing the resources. But the truth is that this is just the transit field. So these are the planets interfering with the background frequency, giving us certain inclinations to do this or that, to be very willful, give promises, over promise, or throwing stuff that we might need later, starting, initiating, and manifesting stuff that we don't know whether we have actually the energy to sustain. And the only thing which protects you is your strategy and authority. To wait for the universe to deliver if you're a generator, to be invited if you're a projector, and recognized and invited to actually manifest an initiative that's your impulse, or be impulsed and initiated if you're a reflector, to gain the surprise, or peace if you're a manifester, success if you're a projector, and satisfaction if you're a generator. And all of that lowers as well the resistance, and your strategy and authority. Inner authority is what actually keeps the whole balance together, the whole picture together. And if you do get into crisis, change, and progress, it will be the correct one. Or if here there is something to be proven, it can be the correct thing to go to. But beware, because 70% of the people have an open ego, and they will be over promising and over stimulating that ego, over using their willpower, which is rented at this moment. It's not yours. It's just you took it as a loan. You loaned this energy of the ego. And 50% of the people are non-emotional. So under the pressure to take emotional decisions right now in the spot for gathering experience, not caring whether it's going to be a good experience or a bad experience, just to have the experience. So it's quite some times which are moving and bringing change, and quite turbulent, and strategy and authority we have. So we take our umbrella to protect ourselves from the weather. This is the transit field, which you don't have to live if your strategy and authority tell you that there is nothing in the air for you, or something that can bring you a enlarged and bigger perspective to things, to put things into a different perspective, and eventually maybe expand our consciousness, expand our horizon to new levels of understanding, and maybe expanding our passenger consciousness, or not. These were the transits. Beware. And I am Veronica from Human Design Journey, and I'll be happy to talk to you soon. See you. Bye.